Chapter 5. Ability. Ability is the fourth element of the ADKAR model and represents the demonstrated capability to implement the change and achieve the desired performance level. The presence of knowledge is often insufficient by itself. Someone who recently completed lessons with a golf pro doesn't walk onto the course and par every hole. Likewise, employees who have knowledge about changes in processes, systems, and job roles don't demonstrate immediate proficiency in these areas. Some employees, depending on the change, may never develop the required abilities. Consider the salespeople in the network equipment company case study from the previous chapter. In this example, all salespeople were required to attend a training program that would fundamentally change how they interacted with their customers. Did it work for all salespeople? No. In fact, about 1/3 of the participants in the training program expressed reluctance about using this approach before they even returned to work. Another third were optimistic, but uncertain if they could really make it happen. The final 1/3 left confident and ready. Within 90 days, about 20% of the salespeople were able to implement the new program or some part of the process and tools. This latter group of account executives closed nearly all of the incremental sales using this new approach. Awareness, desire, and knowledge are all essential building blocks, but fall short of realizing change if ability is absent. Ability is the demonstrated achievement of the change. Ability is the act of doing, such that the desired objectives of the change are realized. When a person achieves this element of the ADKAR model, the change is visible in action or measurable in terms of effect. Several factors can impact a person's ability to implement change, including psychological blocks, physical abilities, intellectual capability, the time available to develop the needed skills, the availability of resources to support the development of new abilities. Factor 1. Psychological blocks. Psychological barriers to change are complex issues that we can recognize as real in terms of their effect, but that we're not always sure how to handle. A close associate, we'll call him John for the purposes of this story, wanted to become a volunteer firefighter for his town. He was aware of the need for additional assistance at the fire department from stories in the local newspaper. Being a fireman was appealing to John, and he had a strong desire to provide some type of community service, so he joined. The initial months of the volunteer program were training intensive. For this town, each firefighter was required to have emergency medical technician (EMT) certification. John passed the course with flying colors. He'd always been good in school. This program was no different. John had met 3 of the requirements for realizing this change. He had awareness of the need, a desire to serve, and knowledge from his new training program. On John's first emergency call, he was summoned to a serious motor vehicle accident. He quickly prepared his gear and uniform and drove to the accident site. Upon arrival, he was confronted with people moving in every direction, but the busy nature of the scene was not what caught John's attention. It was a woman, seriously hurt and bleeding on the street. John froze. He could only stand and watch as another paramedic attended to the injured woman. For the first time, John felt helpless and unable to act. The sight of blood triggered something for John, and he was not able to serve as he anticipated. A week later, John left the volunteer fire department. He realized that a majority of their emergency calls were medical in nature. This psychological block was paralyzing for him and prevented him from providing the needed medical care quickly and efficiently. In the workplace, psychological barriers exist as well. Public speaking, for example, is a fear shared by many. This manifests itself for some employees when participating in large meetings or giving presentations. Some employees don't perform well in these circumstances, and later they reflect their frustration on how this nervousness prevents them from demonstrating their real potential. Factor 2. Physical abilities. For some people, physical limitations may prevent them from implementing change. Take the simple task of keyboarding. Individuals with limited dexterity or arthritis cannot type without tremendous effort. Even when successful, the rate of text entry is very slow. Depending on the performance level required by the change, the new level of performance may simply be outside of the physical abilities of an individual. Sports certainly demonstrate that each of us have limits to our performance. Some of us play sports for fun. Others may have played in high school. Some went on to play in college. A few may play professionally. It's not the absence of knowledge that prevents us from playing sports at higher levels, but rather the absence of ability. We know this to be true by simply observing that some of the best coaches at all levels were not necessarily the best players themselves. Vince Lombardi, for example, is considered one of the greatest coaches in American football, yet he never played football in the NFL. In the workplace, physical limitations could include strength, physical ability, manual dexterity, physical size, and hand-eye coordination. Factor 3. Intellectual capability. Intellectual capability can also play a role in developing new abilities. All individuals possess unique skills that fall on spectrums of intellectual ability. For example, some people have a natural talent when it comes to finance and math, whereas others excel in innovation and creativity. Some people are naturally good writers, whereas others struggle to put their thoughts and ideas into words. Depending on the nature of the change, some individuals may have mental barriers to implementing the change. In the case study of the network equipment manufacturer, where only 20% of the salespeople were able to change their selling approach, analytical skills became a barrier to change. Many could not develop the abilities around problem solving, financial analysis, and business case development within a reasonable time to produce revenue results. Factor 4. The time available to develop the needed skills. Time can be a factor for many types of change. If a person cannot develop the required skills in the needed time frame, then the change could fail, even if the person might have the potential to develop these abilities given more time. In a business situation, the time frame for implementing change is often driven by external factors outside of the control of managers and supervisors. Factor 5. The availability of resources. The availability of resources to support a person during the developmental period will also play a role. Resources could include financial support, proper tools and materials, personal coaching, and access to mentors and subject matter experts. The process of developing new skills and abilities is enhanced by the presence of a support structure for an individual. This support structure promotes the cultivation of new skills, but it also can address any knowledge gaps that may be revealed once the change is underway. Summary. All of these factors, psychological blocks, physical abilities, intellectual capability, time and resources, contribute to our potential to develop new abilities. By definition, ability, in the context of the ADKAR model, is achieved when a person or organization can implement the change and achieve the desired performance level associated with that change. Ability is the fourth element of the ADKAR model. Once a person demonstrates the desired skills and behavior for the change, has the change process been completed? If individuals have the ability to implement the change, then as change leaders and managers, are we finished managing this change?